We are now going to move into the post AGM or business portion of tonight's program with our awards ceremony and our anniversary spotlight and fireside chat. As Wendy mentioned before, there's no formal break to tonight's program. So if you need to take a break, please do so. And hopefully you'll come back and spend the rest of the evening with us. As I mentioned, we're now going to move into the award ceremony. We have a number on the slate tonight. After the recipient has been announced, we encourage everyone to unmute themselves and to applaud the recipients. So our first award of the night is the Founders Award. The Founders Award was established on CILT's 10th anniversary and recognizes the contributions of individuals that exemplify and advance the independent living movement. It is my privilege to announce that Jacques LeBlanc has been selected by the board of directors as the recipient of this year's Founders Award. As many of you may recognize Jacques from Many of you may recognize Jacques from the many years he served on CILT's board of directors. And we're recognizing tonight for his contributions to CILT and to his contributions to the broader community. So Jacques, in 2018, Jacques increased his involvement with CILT by becoming a consumer panelist, interviewing applicants as part of the direct funding program. At this time, Jacques also began serving as a member of the CILT board of directors. He served for 6 years, with the last 4 as its president and chair. Just before the COVID-19 pandemic began, Jacques became chair, and throughout the pandemic, Jacques and the entire board played a key role in determining a strategy for providing PPE to our CILT managers, as well at the same time supporting our staff and our community. It is my honor and privilege to continue Jacques' legacy by serving as the president of the board and chairing these meetings. And I'm pleased to recognize Jacques for his ongoing advocacy to advance accessibility and the independent living movement. Through Jacques' contributions, he has inspired many individuals to live independently and contribute to their communities and to society as a whole. Jacques, you will always be part of the CILT family, and we are really pleased and honored to present you with this award for your contributions to CILT. So thank you very much, and congratulations. So Jacques, if you want to unmute and say a few words, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Darren, for the kind words of introduction. Still scratching my head over the fact that I've been nominated for the Founders Award. When I received the call, I was pleasantly shocked, to say the least. I never expected to receive this award, and I guess that makes receiving this award so special. You know, you go about life as usual, not realizing that there are others who take notice. So of course, I find this extremely humbling. First and foremost, though, I'd like to give a big thank you to CILT's board of directors for selecting me. Congratulations as well to the other nominees for being recognized. As mentioned on the beautiful plaque that was delivered to me this week, the Founders Award recognizes the significant contributions of individuals who exemplify and have advanced independent living philosophy in the spirit of its founders. For this, I'm truly honored, and it's an even greater honor to be placed in such ranks as those of the past 29 honorees, all of whom who have made important contributions in Toronto and Ontario towards the betterment of life for the disabled community. Uh, for members who do not know me, I just want to reflect on my life a bit. Back in 1981, I was an architectural student in Ottawa, holding a summer government job program promoting the Pringle pipe, which was also known as the P pipe. And this pipe was to be installed in malls and grocery stores across Canada to help prevent the thefts of shopping carts. I guess life was easier back then. The design of the Pringle pipe also allowed access to individuals using wheelchairs. This was my first experience of working for a cause that benefited individuals similar to myself. In 1982, I moved to Toronto and worked for a small firm called Direct Access Design. Our objective was to renovate commercial and public properties across the GTA to allow for accessibility to individuals where needed. Back then, it was an undertaking I thoroughly enjoyed. But in 1987, I found my true calling. I went to work for the Toronto Star. I worked alongside some great people. To name one, past CILT president Helen Henderson. Now, I was not fortunate to have my own beat as Helen did, but in my 25 years at the Star, I did manage to write a few features and pieces regarding disability issues. I also wrote on disability issues for newspapers in New Orleans, Sweden, Antigua, in Barbados. And believe it or not, I also did a travel piece for Good Housekeeping, which happened to pay the best of all of them. After retiring, though, I took a few years off to relax and catch up on some reading. And in 1917, I believe it was 1917, I decided to roll out of bed and find a worthy cause to volunteer for. So after inquiring, CILT accepted me with open arms. As Darren mentioned, I served on the board for 6 years, the last 4 as president and board chair. I often referred myself as the virtual president because during my tenure, it happened during the pandemic. It was still a lot of work, and I met some wonderful people along the way. As our agenda was always full, we always had something to do, so it was worthwhile, and it just filled my heart knowing that we're doing something for the community. Today, I still volunteer on a limited basis through the direct funding program at CILT as a consumer panelist. So just to let me say in closing tonight that behind any award presentation, there's always a strong team in the background who few hear about, but is most deserving. So I'd like to recognize the board under my watch from 2019 to 2023, along with Executive Director Wendy Porsche, who endured countless phone conversations with me throughout the years to keep me updated. And finally, independent living has such empowerment for individuals anywhere, whether you're disabled or not. And inclusion in today's world is extremely important. So for the past 40 years, CILT has left an indelible footprint, ensuring that the disabled community and anyone in need is given the opportunity to persevere and excel. I always like to say that a world without CILT would definitely or would infinitely be worse. So keep up the crusade as we stand together for autonomy and dignity. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for this award. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacques, and congratulations. I'd now like to invite everyone to unmute and to applaud Jacques, please.
Yay!
Congratulations, Jack.
Congratulations, Jack. Well deserved.
Congrats.
Congratulations, Jack.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Whoa.
Thanks, everyone. If you could mute again, that would be great. And thank you, Jock, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Darren.
We're now going to move on to our next award, which is the Helen Henderson Literary Award. And for this, I'd like to call upon Lisa DeBono, Senior Manager of the Direct Funding Program, to present the award. Lisa?
Thank you, Darren. The Helen Henderson Literary Award was established in 2016 to acknowledge an exceptional piece of writing that raises social awareness of disability issue or barrier. It is named in honor of Helen Henderson, a writer, a journalist, and the pioneer author of a column in the Toronto Star that brought disability issues to the public. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the late 1970s, and since then, she fought to maintain her independence. Her career at the Star began in 1971 as a business reporter. After moving to the Star's Life section, she proposed writing a column about people with disabilities and the issues they face. She was the first person at the Star to address disability issues on a regular basis and provided critical coverage of the direct funding program in the early days. In 2014, Henderson was elected president of the CILT board. On behalf of CILT's board of directors, I would like to present the Helen Henderson Literary Award to Tali Osborne. Tali's submission is entitled Universal Design, Transforming How We Think About Accessibility, and was published by Azure Magazine, an award-winning magazine with a focus on contemporary architecture and design. In her submission, Tali describes her work this way. The featured article emphasizes the significance of integrating universal design principles into architecture and product development. It advocates for creating environments and products that are usable by everyone, regardless of ability or disability. Tali speaks from personal experience of the need for accessibility in the built environment, having been born missing both arms and some bones in her legs. In the article, she writes, "Each day, I have to know in advance if everywhere I need to be is accessible for me, or if there is even an accessible route to get there. People assume that in Canada, in 2021, most places meet those criteria. This, however, is not the case." She relays several stories about being literally trapped in between one accessible door and another without a door opener. She argues for the development of a new committee staffed fully by disabled people with lived experience to audit and advise on the on the development of actually accessible housing, transportation, interior and exterior public spaces. Hire the experts, she urges. We couldn't agree more, Tali. Many of us at CILT and on the CILT board are ready and willing to be part of your new vision for accessible design. Thank you for encouraging a broader understanding of what it takes for disabled people to truly live in community and for bringing that vision to architects and designers through your excellent article. Congratulations on being our 2024 Helen Henderson Literary Award winner. We'd like to invite Tali to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so honored. Where do I begin? So I have, I'm missing both of my arms, and I'm missing bones in my legs, but I actually have legs, so they're just really short. I'm 3'5". I use a mobility scooter to get around, and as Lisa mentioned, it's hard. And I've always, as disabled people, we've been given labels throughout the years. I was born in 1980, so the labels we've been given from the beginning of time that were nothing I could relate to. But what I always thought about was, I'm living in a world that wasn't built for me. That's it. You know, you can call me all of the labels you want, but I'm living a fulfilled life. It's just so challenging for me because this world, when they built this, you know, Toronto, Montreal, all of Canada, US, they didn't think about people like me and like you. They thought about, you know, able-bodied people with arms and legs and da 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 da. And that's what I always say. And when I was asked to write this article, oh my goodness, I was so excited. I was like, finally, because I've always had, you know, I've always been passionate about accessibility and universal design and just the fact that it shouldn't be hard for me to get to work. It shouldn't be hard for me to go to the grocery store, you know? And when I was asked to write this article, I was so excited, and I am so proud of how it turned out. It's pretty much everything that's in my deep, dark soul of how I feel about this topic. And it's funny, something I just thought of. I was at my boyfriend's mom's house the other day or yesterday, and I had to ask her to get me a glass of water. And I always have to ask her to get me a glass of water. And she's like, how do you get water at home? And I'm like, well, I've made my home a beautiful place for me to live in, you know, and I can get water at home. I can cook dinner. I can scoop the kitty litter. I can do all the things. I live 100% independently. I just can't get water anywhere else. So that's just a funny little thing that happened the other day where I was like trying to explain to her, like, it's not me really, you know, it's this world. So anyways, when I found out a couple days ago that I won this award, I called my mom and my sister actually works for the Toronto Star, and she has a disability, and she was like, oh my gosh, Helen Anderson's amazing. And that's what my mom said too. And I agree. So I am very honored. And I just want to say thank you so much for this honor. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Tali. Can I ask everyone to unmute and offer Tali a round of applause, please?
Congratulations.
Yay, congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us, Tali. Nice to see you.
Way to go.
Yay! Thank you, everyone. And just a quick little, I'm a motivational speaker. I tell stories and speak for a living. So if anybody ever needs, I've been doing this since 2014. Richard Branson gave me an endorsement. So I am very good at what I do. I just wanted to say that because you know what? Who knows who's in this Zoom right now? So yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Great.
Thank you, Tali. Back to you now, Darren.
Thanks, Lisa. Congratulations, Tali, again. Moving on to our next award, it is the Vic Willie Legacy Award, and I'm going to call upon Wendy to provide an update on this award. Wendy?
Sounds good, Darren. Thank you. Hi, everybody. As you know, the Vic Willie Legacy Award recognizes a young disabled leader's contributions to community. And we have decided this year to extend the application period of the Vic Willie Award to May of 2025. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Jason. To May of 2025, so we are able to award the Vic Willie Legacy Award at our 40th anniversary gala on June 5th, 2025. So this is to say, if there is a young disabled leader you believe embodies the qualities of the Vic Willie Legacy Award, we encourage you to reach out and to apply. You can find the award application details and application form on the CILT website. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. The board looks forward to announcing the recipient of that award at the gala next year. So moving on to our next award, this is a new award this year, and I'm going to call on Wendy again to provide the announcement. Wendy?
Thanks, Darren. This is quite close to my heart, and I think many people's heart too. I'm pleased to announce that a new CILT Award has been created to honor Sandra Carpenter, the Sandra Carpenter Legacy Award for Artists. Sandra Carpenter was an influential figure in the disability rights movement and independent living movement in Canada. Born with spinal muscular atrophy, she used a wheelchair for most of her life. She advocated for the rights and dignity of people with disabilities and was a founding member of CILT, where she served as the executive director for 25 years in total. Sandra supported artists working in various mediums, such as painting, collage, and photography, and she believed that art could challenge the stereotypes and stigma connected to disability and celebrate the diversity, beauty, and challenges of the human experience. Sandra passed away in 2020 at the age of 64, just after she had retired from CILT, leaving behind a legacy of activism and support for the arts. The Sandra Carpenter Legacy Award for Artists was created in her memory to recognize her legacy by empowering artists with disabilities. The award aims to recognize and celebrate the artistic achievements of artists with disabilities who embody the spirit of independent living. The award will be granted annually by the CILT Board of Directors to an artist with a disability whose submission demonstrates creativity, originality, and a commitment to the values of independent living. Details on how to apply will be posted on the CILT website, and applications will be accepted up to May 2025, and the first winner will be announced at the June anniversary gala. And I just wanted to say a special thank you to the CILT board and to Tracy and Kathleen Odell, Sandra's sister and Sandra's niece, and to Rebecca Barry, who is an old friend of Sandra's, for helping to shape this tribute to Sandra. Tracy will be present at the gala to award the inaugural Sandra Carpenter Legacy Award for Artists. And we hope, Sandra, wherever you are, that you're feeling the love tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. We are looking forward to honoring Sandra's legacy and recognizing an artist with a disability. And thank you again to the board and to the Dow family for their support. All right, this adjourns the business portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you all for joining us. We're now going to continue, starting over again because I'm clearly not in the right place. This concludes the awards portion of tonight's program, and we're now going to move into our anniversary spotlight and our fireside chats. So I'm going to call Wendy to kick us off by recognizing some long-term service recipients. Wendy?
Thanks so much, Darren. It's important to recognize the people who do the work day in, day out in support of CILT and our vision of social and economic equity for disabled people. So at CILT, we have taken the opportunity to recognize staff anniversaries throughout the year at staff meetings, but only those that are ending in 0s or 5s, because otherwise we would be doing it all the time. So I'd like to celebrate a few anniversaries. So there's 3 folks who have reached these milestones in the past 12 months. Rebecca Wood and Elaine Chu are celebrating 5 years. And a hearty congratulations and a huge thank you to them both and to all of our staff for doing what you do every day, all day, and all of the important work that you do to support our mission and our vision. Special congratulations as well to those staff who have celebrated milestone anniversaries this year, as well as past years. We do have another anniversary that I want to just comment on in a little bit more detail. But congratulations, first of all, to Rebecca and Elaine for an amazing 5 years. It has been a real pleasure working with you both. And I feel really lucky to have you as part of our team. We also have a special, pretty incredible anniversary. So Lisa DeBono, Senior Manager of the Direct Funding Program, is celebrating 30 years with us. So we're not just celebrating 30 years of the Direct Funding Program, which is what I mentioned earlier, but we're also celebrating 30 years of Lisa DeBono working with the Direct Funding Program, which is pretty exceptional. The direct funding program is an exceptional example of what can happen when we let consumers make decisions for themselves. There is no question that it's made a remarkable impact on the lives of self-managers across the province of Ontario. But what is less well known is the extraordinary impact Lisa has had on the program. Lisa is the resident expert on DF. She has so much knowledge about the program because she herself has done pretty much all of the jobs within DF at one time or another. I want everyone to know, because I know this, what a fighter Lisa is. For all of the self-managers on the DF program, for all of the consumers who may one day benefit from the program, for her staff team, and for CILT at large. Lisa lives and breathes DF and IL through and through. She is the most passionate advocate for DF and for self-managers everywhere. And we are so lucky to have you, Lisa. I know that, having sat in years worth of meetings and discussions with you. I know your team knows it too, but I want everybody here to know that as well. Your leadership has steered DF through the profound shock of the pandemic, and it is now moving us into a new era of modernization too. I'm very proud to call you a trusted colleague and a friend. Happy anniversary, Lisa, and I'd like to invite you to say a few words.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm always so glad that my camera is off. And if I might just say, I'm really happy I showered before this meeting because, there was a possibility I wasn't going to do it. And, then you have to use a trash shampoo. Anyways, it's just so good that I've showered. I can't believe it's 30 years. It's been a long time. It's shocking. I'm 39 and I've been here 30 years. Nobody's going to argue with that tonight. Nobody's going to say a word. That's it. No, I'm sincerely grateful to CILT for having been here for 30 years. I'm grateful to Ian, and Vic and Lenka, even though, I interviewed and they chose somebody else for the job and she didn't show up. Sucks to be her because I got the job. And so I am so grateful to have had such a great employer in CILT and such a rewarding career so far. I can't, I could never talk about 30 years without talking about Ian. Nothing comes to me, nothing about CILT comes without Ian. He was my boss, my friend, my mentor. He taught me everything I know. And I will forever be grateful for his guidance. And that he made the right choice, eventually, not first, but eventually, he figured it out. And not just Ian, so many people helped me along the way. Hazel, who has always been a rock and who continues to be somebody that I count on. Warner, who was always there in the steering committee days and still. Audrey, who I still rely on and talk to. Enza, by the way, Enza, I went through the photo albums the other day just to peek my memory. What? There are so many pictures. I'm looking at just like the Enza album. Like, we got to go through this. We got to sit down and go through those pictures. So, it's a long tenure, but in more recent years, and by that I would like to say the last decade plus, I've also been really, really privileged to work with incredible people. Leanne joined the team 14 years ago and Abdullah 13 years ago, and I could not have asked for more supportive or collaborative colleagues. Together, we have worked through some of the strangest and most unusual circumstances you could imagine. So we can tell you that direct funding is sometimes rewarding, emotional, or challenging, but it is never boring. And of course, I met Wendy 6 years ago. She had been here 2 whole years before the pandemic hit. And I will forever be grateful to Wendy's leadership during COVID and her foresight. She is always thinking a few steps ahead and finding ways that we can do things better. She does not accept the status quo. And I have learned so much watching her challenge systems to make them better. I feel that I am better at what I do because of her guidance. Speaking of improvement and guidance, so many people, so many beneficial changes at CILT. But after we hired our first human resources and operations manager, Melissa Watanabe, in 2021, I saw more incredible changes. You just gotta love someone who responds to your deepest thoughts and ideas with more probing questions that make you really get to the core of what you need to do. Forget 20 questions. Melissa's list is an endless list of questions. We would be here all day if I continued to thank all the people who have helped me in some way. John Mossa, for example, who I've worked with for, we're going to have to check this, John, but I think more than 2 decades out of the 3 decades I've been here, and whose opinion I respect enormously. John Tam, who has made the most profound difference to the way we track and record information with his fancy multi-table database, as opposed to the one that I started. And of course, my direct team of managers, Jess, Kate, and Thomas, along with Leanne and Abdullah. This group discussed the issues no one else can answer, and I could not ask for a better group of people who consistently look for transparent, sustainable solutions to some of direct funding's most challenging questions. Before I started at CILT, there was one staff in direct funding, and that was Ian. And for several years, it was just Ian and I. And he would so enjoy to meet each of the 23 dedicated staff, who I am proud and grateful to work with every day. You all contribute to the success of the program, and you all make us look good. So many more people to mention. All of the core staff, all of operations, everyone at CILT. But I'll just stop at David and Danielle, who make senior management meetings insightful and fun. I've enjoyed a long career. It's not over yet. But there is a parting thought I'd like to share, and that is that I will always try to remember my beginnings and the reasons why this program is important and who it serves. I will always endeavor to make decisions that Ian would approve of and to allow his motivations and principles to guide me. Thank you very much.
Oh, brilliant, Lisa. Gonna make me cry. Thank you. Can I just invite folks, if you want to unmute and just say congratulations to Lisa and to our other anniversary.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Yay.
Woo! Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations, Lisa.
Congrats. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. That was just brilliant. I'd also like to take the opportunity to note and thank our board member who is leaving us tonight, Vincenza or Enza Rinaldi, who has fulfilled her term limit. Thank you, Enza, for all of your commitment to IL and for your insights and for your advice and for your thoughtfulness as a board member. We will be following up with you with a small gift to thank you for all of your time and work and energy. So thank you again, Enza.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Enza. We know where you are too, so hopefully you're not going very far. Can always find you. So thank you again. And thanks to everybody who's celebrating anniversaries and to anyone else and to everyone else, to all of you folks who make CILT what it is. Thank you for all of your contributions and hard work. And thank you again to all of the members who are attending tonight. If you are interested in becoming a member of CILT and you support CILT's goals of facilitating the socioeconomic equity of disabled people, please check out our website. There is information there about membership. So this is our 40th anniversary and AGM for CILT, as you heard. And we thought it would be great to invite a few friends to sit around a fire and reminisce about the early days of CILT and DF and to really dig into how it all started. We also wanted to invite some friends who more recently got to know us too and let them have an opportunity to reflect on their involvement with CILT and how things are going so far. So for the next 30 minutes or so, we are going to, actually until 8, I think we're well ahead of time. Let's save 30 minutes and see how we go. We're going to hear from these early pioneers and more recent valued partners on their impressions and memories of CILT over the years. How do we celebrate our history together? This is how, by talking about it and by having it witnessed in conversation. So I'd like to move into our fireside chat section of the evening, and I'd like to introduce our guest speakers and ask them to turn on their cameras and audio, and I'll get us started with a couple questions. So hello, we have Karen Yoshida, who is a retired U of T professor and a longtime academic partner to CILT and a former CILT board member. We have Heather Willis. I think Heather's here. I saw Heather. Hi, Heather. I can see you now. Heather is the accessibility coordinator at TMU and also a former board member of CILT. Is Ingrid here?
Yes. Can you not see me?
Hi, Ingrid. We can't see you. We can hear you, though.
I'm going to try to turn my camera on. I had trouble getting it on my laptop, but I'll try getting it on the phone. Thanks.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for being here, Ingrid.
Mm-hmm.
And Ingrid is the principal ideal advocate at Realize Canada, where I used to work actually at Realize. It's a brilliant organization. And Ingrid has been a community partner and a CILT program participant as well. It's really great to see you, Ingrid. I'd also like to welcome John Massa, who has been CILT's Independent Living Skills Coordinator for 24 years and has supported consumers with all of the issues you can imagine for those 24 years and has witnessed and been part of the evolution of CILT too. And also I'd like to invite Darren, our current board chair, the CILT board chair now, and also an accessibility expert in his own right at the Toronto Public Library and also at the City of Toronto to join us too. So welcome for our fireside chat, everybody. Each of you is truly deserving of a longer intro than I have provided you with because you're all very knowledgeable and have done a lot of impactful work. But we were trying to keep the intro short. Sometimes I find in these kinds of chats, the intros are longer than the chat. So we were hoping to focus on the chat. I think many of us know you from various panels and other events in community too. So welcome to the 40th anniversary Fireside Chat. Cue crackling in the background. If you can imagine it, imagine yourself around a cozy fire. We did actually have a start with the screen. We were going to put up a whole window that was just a crackling fire. And honestly, we all kind of had a look at it and it felt more like we were on fire than relaxing near the fire. So we just thought maybe we wouldn't do that. But you can use your imaginations and actually imagine us sitting around a cozy fireplace. So I would love to hear the stories about how you came into this work, the people that drew you into CILT and into independent living, and the impact that you've seen of your work over the years. So if I could ask you to be conscious of time, and because we're telling stories, maybe like a 2-minute story is good versus the whole book. We do want to do more of these conversations as well. So, keep an eye out, everybody, for our anniversary events. We hope to have another fireside chat. But anyway, I am thrilled to have you all here. And I want to just start with the first question and throw it out there and see if anybody has anything they want to jump in with. But I want to know for all of you, what was it initially that drew you to CILT? And what was the environment like at the time when you joined CILT? So I'll just open it up to everyone.
Hi, Wendy.
You go ahead, Karen.
No, Heather, you start? Okay, I'll start. I'll start and you jump in. Okay. All right. So, good evening, everyone. So really quickly, I think when I think about that question, the story I think about is two people very quickly who really got me thinking about how important it was to have the community voice and the individuals with disabilities voice in what mattered to them. Very quickly, Daryl Murphy was a patient at Lyndhurst Hospital when I was a last year physical therapy student. I met him and he was so encouraging for me to be able to work with clients, mentioning to me the importance of listening to people. And it really, really resonated with me. I took that feeling and that inspiration and went and met with Vic and said, hi, I kind of don't know anything about the community. can I somehow learn about it? And he very quickly, in his very generous way, said, okay, sure. Why don't you come to a big meeting we're going to have at St. Leonard's? And that St. Leonard's meeting was one of the first meetings related to attendance service. And I saw many people there all rallying around the opportunity to be able to direct their own service. And I saw the power of community, and that just drew me in right away. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Karen. Heather, did you want to tell us a bit about your introduction and what drew you into the work that was happening at CILT?
Well, first of all, I was drawn into the work long before CILT existed. I went to live at Bloorview when I was 10 years old I'm revealing my age now, in 1971. And one of the first people I met was Tracy O'Dell, then Tracy Carpenter, Sandra's sister, and Sandra. But Tracy and I became fast friends. And I was very shy. And at the time, there was I think they called it Residence Council, that Sandra, I think, had started, probably Sandra and Tracy. And I was politicized at a very young age by the Carpenter sisters, and they became lifelong role models. Tracy is to this day. And that was 15 years or so before CILT began. And then Tracy and I ended up living in the same apartment building at 341 Bloor, and there was a planning meeting around independent living and CILT at the time, and in our building. And that was the first time I'd heard of independent living and was introduced to the principles and values around independent living.
That's amazing, Heather, too, right? So these are the things that come, as you say, before the organization is formed. It's really people coming together, right? So I have two questions. Do you remember any of the things that the Residence Council was kind of coming together on? What were the early sort of political draws for you? And then secondly, do you remember much about that kind of initial meeting around IL at 341 Bloor?
Well, one thing I remember is that we didn't want to be called Patients Council. We didn't want to be referred to as patients because we weren't sick. And so, it may have been called Patients Council initially, and there was a change to residents. So that sticks out in my mind. There's the word community has come up many times this evening already, and I think community is something that I felt at that meeting, the beginning of that community, and that community has expanded over the years. And so that sense and just an awareness of the term disability justice didn't exist then either, but that feeling was there as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you. Ingrid, you joined us in the last 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
So maybe you could tell us a bit about what it was that drew you to CILT and to partner with us on some work.
I can tell you that I happened to be in 2019 doing a really short 6-month stint. It was an internship at the CNIB. And right at the end, when my 6-month contract was ending, I believe I got an email from David looking for participants for an accessible media program. And I did my due diligence, and sent it out to, our list of community, but I also applied for it myself. And so that was my first initial involvement with CILT, was with this amazing program where I got to meet a lot of really great people, Gabe and Adam and Donald and Jason as well, and many of those folks who I'm still in contact with today. And I got to learn about incredible people like Tracy O'Dell and Sandra Carpenter, and programs that used to exist like DNet and the Disability Channel, which I'd never known. And the interesting thing is that I grew up in foster care. I spent many years, and I have never been involved in the disability community. I spent the majority of my life feeling really isolated and alone and figuring things out on my own. And becoming involved with CILT was really an inauguration. I mean, the stint I did at CNIB was great. I'd never been around so many blind people before in my life. I was like, where have you all been hiding? But CILT was really an introduction for me into the community, and I've never left. It was such an incredible experience to be working with people with disabilities on a project about people with disabilities, and through my involvement with CILT, I've come into contact with many other organizations. And so it really was my first entry into the community, and it's been brilliant. I had no idea about the history, that we had a history, that we had a culture. I've been so isolated all my life. And so although the relationship is new, it's had a deep and a really positive impact on my life, to just for the first time really be deeply immersed in community.
Ingrid, I feel the same way. Like there's a thing that happens when you're a disabled person and you're around other disabled people. There's a kind of I get you thing that happens. That's really brilliant. And I don't know if you remember, but you and I met at Bloorview, at Holland Bloorview when there was an event on. I think there was a
I
city.
couldn't remember if it was before or after. So I was thinking about that. I was like, did I meet Wendy first or was it after? I couldn't remember.
We met first because you were at a different table. We were at an event, and I think it was around like it was around the straw ban, I think, wasn't it? The city was.
Yes, it was. It was. And we were saying that actually no. that is not like good for everybody. That's right. But that was part I was working at CNIB then. You're absolutely right.
Right. You were working at CNIB, and I sort of looked around the room and thought, are there any other disabled people in the room? And I think you were sitting behind me, and I just went over and said, hi, can I sit here with you? And then we sort of just struck up a friendship, right? So, and that's the power of community again, I think, when you're looking for some allies and some advocates out in the world. Now, John, how did you come to CILT? I don't know anything about this story, so I would be fascinated to hear it.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to this amazing panel. About 26 years ago, I was looking for outreach attendant services and supportive housing. So I came to CILT as a consumer, and coming to CILT and finding out the Project Information Center, which is now the Attendant Service Application Center, was an amazing program that I didn't have to fill out 10 different applications for attendant service. I could fill out one, and the Attendant Service Application Center would send it out to the 10 service providers that I applied to. It was amazing. And what was amazing, when I came to CILT, I've never seen an organization run by people with disabilities. Usually I would go to organizations that was always able-bodied people and not really understanding my needs, and just actually seeing people like Vic and Ian and other staff that were there who had disabilities was amazing, and have a feeling that he understood what my needs were. So that was my introduction as a consumer. And I'm so very grateful to people like Heather and Sandra and Vic and Ian for really trying to make services and programs for people with disabilities that really helped us. So that's my intro to CILT.
Oh, that's really cool, John. Thank you for sharing that. I've known you for how many years, and I didn't know that's how you got connected to us too.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Darren, how did you get connected? I know how you got connected with us, but
Yes.
maybe you can tell everybody else.
For sure. So I came to CILT through knowing Wendy. Wendy and I met back, I want to say 2014, 2015. We both were serving as members of the City of Toronto's Accessibility Advisory Committee. And after the meetings, Wendy and I would take the Bay bus back to our respective jobs. And along the way, we would vent our frustrations or just have really frank conversations about the meetings and sort of bonded over our values and our beliefs and our commitment to advancing accessibility. So fast forward to early 2019, and the board was looking for new members, and Wendy reached out to me to see if I would be interested. And I was looking for an opportunity to give back to the broader community, disability community, and thought it'd be great. So Wendy and I met for lunch, and she just relayed all or laid out all of the benefits of becoming a board member. And the one thing that really attracted me to CILT, as John said, it was just the fact that it was an organization run by people with disabilities. And that's something that I was looking for. So I joined the board in October of 2019 and have been here ever since.
Yeah, it was great. I'm glad that you didn't say that I bribed you.
No.
I thought about it and didn't. So at least that. Thank you, Darren.
No problem.
It's been really great to work with you. And you're so knowledgeable, and you bring all of this background from your work at the city too. So it's been a really great thing to have that kind of eye into what's going on potentially at the city and all of the systems change work that we do at CILT now. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask folks, can you share an example of a moment or a story that you consider to be the most significant in the history of IL work? Because what we're talking about IL, people with disabilities making decisions for themselves, having community, offering peer support. That's the kind of reason that we exist. Sorry, there's a lot of sirens going past my house at the moment. Can you share any examples with us of what you consider to be the most significant moments in the history of the IL work that you've done, either with CILT or on your own? It's not an easy question. It's a hard one.
Okay, I'll start.
Great.
Just came to mind right now. I was very influenced by the work of Judith Snow, who was another huge disability activist and just so much more. I don't know if she had connections directly with CILT or not, but one of the things that she was a founder of, a believer in, was circles of support. And in the mid to late 80s, I had gone back to school part-time while I was working, doing community work at George Brown. And I needed to come up with some sort of placement activity or something related to one of my courses. And at the time I was working at Sunnybrook Hospital, and I met a man. There was a little part of it. So I was working in Skill, which does prosthetics and orthotics. And my role was around funding. Skill stood for Center for Independent Living, or what was it called? Sunnybrook Center for Independent Living. And I really tried to tell them not to call it that. They originally were AIDS for Living Center when they changed over. And anyway, I I couldn't convince them not to use that name, but they were not an independent living center. However, I met this man. His name was Richard. He came into our center because he needed seating. I believe he was around 47 at the time. He had cerebral palsy, and he came in with his cousin. And he had a very magnetic personality. They came into the area that I worked in just to see what it was all about while they were waiting. And what I found when I was talking to him and his cousin was that his mother had recently died. He had lived at home and his parents were elderly. His father couldn't look after him once his mother died, and he was living in Riverdale. And his cousin was sort of filling in for him. Very long story short, I reached out to a friend of mine, Ed Wadley, many people probably know who Ed is as well, and said, I want to start a support circle with this man, and explained part of what his story was about. He hated Riverdale, of course. He was in his 40s, and he was in a room with a bunch of people, that were, in their 80s and basically were in palliative care. And we started a support circle, my friend Ed and I. And a few years later, I recall being at a restaurant celebrating his birthday, Richard's birthday, there was probably 14 people around the table. And it was amazing. But the amazing moment was when we literally broke him out of Riverdale and got him into a group home. His father thought we were a bunch of fly-by-night hippies and was very concerned about our involvement with him. But he was an adult, and we had a social worker involved, we had a lawyer involved, and he signed himself out. And I had the funny part of this story is that I had my driver's license and I was driving at the time. And I said to my husband, I want to drive. Like, when we get him, I want to drive him home. And we realized that I had forgotten my license at home.
Right.
I said, I don't care. I want to be the one to drive him there. And I think I stayed in the van. My husband and the lawyer and the social worker went up to get him, and just threw all his stuff in the bag. And they went into the elevator, and there was a movie poster in the elevator, and it was The Great Escape.
That's great.
And so that I remember feeling that day that if I did nothing else in my life, that was the most important thing. And that was around in the 90s. And Richard passed away. Our support circle had been together with him for 9 years when he passed away. So
that's
anyway.
incredible. That's incredible. Thank you, Heather, for sharing that. Breaking him out, literally. Breaking him out into community. It's pretty incredible, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything you want to share? Karen, is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I just wanted to wait to see if John or Darren or Ingrid wanted to weigh in first. So I will wait to see first if they want to say something.
I can share something, Wendy.
Sure.
When we think about the principles of independent living, and we're thinking about, what you mentioned before around like peer support, around community, around agency, I think about how I always call myself a product of services, that the success that I have today in my life is due to like many, many people and many programs and services that I've been involved in the different ways that they touch my life. And my involvement with CILT has been one of those. As I mentioned before, I spent a long time. I was a former Crown Ward in the foster care system, and I really had seen education as my way of leveling the playing field for myself. I pushed really hard and graduated well from high school and college with 2 diplomas, and from York University with a degree. And I thought, this is it. My life is going to be great from here. And like many people with disabilities, I found that the labor market was not a place that was welcoming for me. There was so much ableism. And of course, I didn't have that word, that language then. But going on multiple interviews and, sometimes being called back for even second and third, but never, ever being the chosen person, and even having one employer at one point say to me that he would have preferred if I had a mobility disability rather than blindness. And so I spent, over 20 years on social assistance and really living in a life of poverty, as most of us with disabilities are forced to from circumstance and lack of opportunity. But in 2021, there came an opportunity for me, what I saw really as a once in a lifetime opportunity to achieve employment and to realize my long dreamed of goal of self-sufficiency and being able to provide for myself. And there was a point as I was applying for this position, and those employers were, familiar. They were a long time in contact with David, and I believe had asked him about my potential. And David, in a very frank, conversation with me, because I've been involved in many programs with CILT there, always as a consumer, and always enjoyable. But, as a participant, and Dave, said to me, Ingrid, this position, requires a lot. And do you think that you can do this? And I said, yes. And he was like, okay. And he gave me a really solid recommendation, and I achieved that job, that position, and was able to, for the first time in a very long time, work and be able to come off of ODSP. And I've been self-sufficient since then. And I see my involvement with CILT and David in particular as being really integral to me achieving that. And so when we talk about peer support and community support, like, all he needed was that yes for me to know that I was confident in myself and my abilities to support me. And I appreciate that so much, because we don't get that often. We get questioned. We get folks who focus only on where we struggle and miss the areas where we shine. And so it's so different in community to know that that our peers, support us and take us at our word. And that's just something that I thought was really important for me to share, because I really like to acknowledge people and organizations who have benefited me, and CILT and David, I feel, have been a part of the success that I am living out now. And so I just really thought it was important to share that.
Ingrid, that is brilliant. David, you're here.
Oh, hi, David.
David, do you want to say anything, David?
Yeah, sure. Wow, wasn't expecting to say anything. I thought this is my year to chill, sit back and relax. Starts to talk about stuff and drops my name. Well, I knew Ingrid from her work with DNEX when I first met you. You had applied and you just had to tell your story, and we thought, yeah, she needs to be in the program. So I had a good couple of years seeing you really just be a powerful justice advocate, not just with disability and as a blind person, but a low vision person, but also as somebody experienced racism, experienced foster care, discrimination, and really had a lot of power inside of you and passion to actually do justice, be a representative of a just world. And you had the power to actually communicate that vision to people. And I knew those folks at TNC for many years. So
yeah,
I was happy that they were the ones actually who reached out to me. And I had a great time telling your story, because I thought all the things they were looking for were things I'd seen you talk about doing, as sitting on the school the boards, and all sorts of committees, doing really empowering, uplifting people, foster kids, getting careers because you went around and talked about the power of foster kids to actually be people who can be difference makers in society. And you were one of those people, and you were a model for a lot of youth. And you're in so many pockets of places where by people. And I thought, this is a neighborhood center network of 30 neighborhood centers. They do place-based work with who? With people living on the margins and people who really have opportunity if the right person is there to give them that inspiration. I thought you would be the perfect person for that opportunity. So
thank you, David. But you've not only supported me with that, but you've pointed me I remember you telling me about the Think Leadership program, which I'm still involved with today. You have recommended me to other folks. I've been involved with the Disability Coalition on your recommendation, and you have supported me in so many ways. And one day I'm going to get you a #1 fan t-shirt, because that's how I feel about you, that you have always really supported me, looked out for me. And I think that's really amazing. And I appreciate you so much, and CILT, for how you've supported me. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think we need to get a t-shirt that we're your #1 fan too, Ingrid. So, I think we lots of those t-shirts. Maybe that's what we'll just distribute after the panel.
Now just invite me to lunch and dinner. We catch up.
Lunch and dinner.
Catch up, right? Let's do
lunch
that.
and dinner, David. Wow. Oh, that's great. Thank you both so much for sharing that. John, did you want to add something in terms of these moments? What are the significant either IL moments or CILT moments that stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't part of the foundation of CILT. I think that is significant. I think the development of the direct funding program is a major accomplishment. But what I can say for me personally in working at CILT is that CILT was a partner for many events around provincial and federal and even mayoral debates. And in 2018, CILT took the lead in doing a provincial debate on disability issues. And Sandra at the time tasked me to lead community partnerships with a cross-section of disability groups to build this partnership so that we could have a provincial debate. And Heather was amazing providing us the venue at TMU. And what was amazing is that with the previous events that we've done, there was always some lack of access. And for me, that was very important that we got it right. And we had moderators who had a visual disability and a hearing disability. And we made sure that we had everything in Braille, and we had ASL interpreters, we had access accommodations, attendance services, and we made sure that everyone had their voices heard in that debate. And I was very proud afterwards that a lot of positive response saying this was one of the most successfully run events that we did. But what came from that, and Sandra always would tell me, is that we at CILT do a lot of behind the scenes work, working with partners. And previously, these events would be ad hoc, and discussing with Sandra and the partners that we had, we said we wanted to have something more sustainable. And so it was the birth of the GTA Disability Coalition, and which does, system level change for people with disabilities. And I think that is a really significant moment for me and for CILT. And really, David and Kim Adler is really running and pushing it forward, the GTA Coalition, with our partners. So I'm really proud of that.
Ah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that debate, even though I wasn't at CILT. I remember it like it was big news, right?
Yeah.
Because who did you have that came that was
We
did,
had the Minister of Health.
right?
So she wasn't Minister of Health at the time, but she became the Minister of Health. What's her name?
Christine Elliott.
Yeah, Christine Elliott. Mark Schneider, the Green Party leader, and we had the NDP critic for disability issues, and the Liberals were going to send a minister, but she wasn't running, so they sent um, uh, just a general Liberal member. So, but it was really amazing to have all these different political leaders there, and have people from, people with disabilities with cross disability perspectives and asking questions. So.
Yeah, really important. And just to contrast that quickly, for the last mayoral election in Toronto, we tried to work in partnership with CNIB and a few other organizations to have a mayor's candidates debate on disability issues. And we had, of all of the candidates, I think we only ever heard back from 2 of them. That was it. We
It's
had
extremely difficult to get.
Yeah.
I had to virtually go in person a couple of times to push to get at least representatives from every party.
Yeah.
It's a real struggle, but it was amazing. We had the support of all of our community partners, and it was amazing that the event ran so well. So.
That's incredible. But it does a number of things, as you say. It galvanizes community, but it also puts community on the radar of the politicians that are involved too. And you establish those relationships and they kind of carry through. And I do think, for people like Christine Elliott, I think that Christine always still had us on her radar after that event. I think that it was something that you could kind of tap into. There's a lot of things that have happened, obviously, with the Ministry of Health over the years, but I feel like she still had community on her radar, in part at least, because of that event. So it was pretty incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Well done. And Karen and Darren, is there anything that you would both like to add to this question?
Sure, I can go. So for me, one aspect of independent living revolves around technology and its impact that it's had on creating and connecting communities especially around people with disabilities. And that became really clear and evident through the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of us would not have been able to connect with one another had it not been for Zoom or email or whatever it may be. So back in 2017, I had the opportunity to work for the Chinese School of Continuing Education at TMU. And Heather will be aware of this project because she was there at the time. It was really instrumental in getting it getting it up and running. But anyways, I became the accessibility project manager for a project that provided funding to students and alumni, many of whom were people with disabilities, to develop technologies for people with disabilities to remove barriers and advance accessibility. And when I think about it now, really support the principles of independent living. As I mentioned, I was involved with that project. I ran it, provided the funding to the recipients as they began to develop their products. And these technologies range from online resource centers, wearable technologies, apps. And as part of my role, I was responsible for connecting them to disability organizations so that they could connect with people with disabilities from the community who would most benefit from the technologies they were developing to consult and provide their feedback. As we all know, the best feedback we can give and receive is through our lived experiences and the lived experiences of people with disabilities. So I think the recipients of the grants really appreciated that. But as I supported the various teams, I was also, I think, providing them with some guidance and some mentorship in terms of developing their skills around budgeting and report writing and project management, all of which were, really tangible skills that they could take with them into the future and, applying to future employment opportunities or future development opportunities. And many of them have gone on to utilize those skills in their current roles, whether it be in academics or in their professional lives. And really, supported their involvement in living independently and in their involvement in the community. So I think that's how I did my part to really advance IL. And I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to be involved with that project because I hadn't seen anything like it before, and I haven't seen anything like it since. So it was a great opportunity.
It sounds really cool, Darren. It sounds like it's very kind of personalized too, right? Like
Yeah.
connecting people to the technology that would work for them, which is a really important part of IL too, right? That
Yeah.
people, what individual needs are and how to support individual folks, not just kind of across the board, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Thanks for sharing that too.
Thanks.
And Karen, I know that you have something to say. So
I'll trying to be very brief because I know our time is moving along here. So for me to think about how do I put independent living in action, for me, it has always been to say, how do I bring that notion of disability into the classroom, especially within a rehabilitation curriculum that prioritizes a medical model of disability? And so I was very fortunate as Vic had taken me on to allow me to become a board member, for me to learn about IL, to learn about community disability issues from people themselves. It allowed me then to say, to get Sandra and Ian and Vic and Hazel Self saying, okay, what can we do? And I said, what can we do then? Okay, can we do something where I'm teaching? And that became the birth of developing disability studies and an independent living movement content within the Department of Physical Therapy in the middle to late 1980s, which is still going on today. There are so many people here who have helped out and supported that. Heather Willis, okay, John, Wendy, there are people here, Mazen Arivi, there are Tracy Odell, Sandra. It has been an incredible collaboration to bring the IL perspective and to have people with disabilities be the experts and teachers of physical therapy students. So while I'm not there anymore, my colleague who's there, Siobhan Niles and Hazel, are still continuing that, and it's been a fantastic partnership. And that's why I'm always here to contribute back, because there's been so much content running within this program, and to really educate and open our students' eyes to another way of look at different disability differently, and to look at disability positively as well.
Thanks, Karen. You know, just as somebody, I was born with my disability, and I definitely came up across physiotherapists in my time. You know, a lot of us went to Bloorview. Well, it used to be called the Crippled Children's Center when I used to go there a million years ago. But, you know, I had to go every year and see a physiotherapist and talk about what I wanted to be able to do in my life. And the work that you have done in terms of making sure that physiotherapy students see disabled people, see the people in context, including their disabilities, right? But not in a medical model, is profound. And the impact that kind of work has on people's lives as they interact with consumers is really significant and important. So I know, in fact, that there's a number of CILT staff that are involved in that work still. So yeah, brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Wendy, if I could just add something to
Sure.
that. Karen's work has inspired at TMU, we applied for a grant, enabling change grant, to bring a similar program to TMU. TMU will be opening a medical school next year, and we put in a grant in partnership with the School of Disability Studies at TMU to create a pilot to bring a similar program inspired by Karen's program to the existing medical allied programs that currently exist at TMU. So nursing, midwifery, nutrition, with the goal of introducing the learning modules that came out of that to the medical school when it opens.
That's incredible. Did you get the grant? Do you know?
We got the grant. Oh yeah.
You got it. Okay, brilliant.
Karen is
Congratulations.
on the advisory committee for the project.
Oh, that's amazing.
We're in the midst of it. Yep.
Congratulations.
It'll be complete next spring hopefully before I retire. And
very exciting. And this model grows, and an understanding of IL grows through this work too.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody. I'm just looking at the time. It's 7:56. So I wanted to just ask one real quick question, and then we can wrap it up. So the last question on our kind of pre-list was our prep list. With CILT celebrating its 40th anniversary and DF marking 30 years, do you think we will get to 80 years, and what will it take? And I wonder if you could just, everybody give me like a real quick, summation, like a couple words. And hopefully it's yes. If it's no, I understand. But will we get there, and what will it take in your view? So maybe Darren, you want to go first?
Sure. I definitely think that we will make it 80 years. And I think it will do that by the continued support of our community and contributions, and just the great work that CILT is doing and will continue to do.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Darren. And Ingrid, do you want to go next?
I do, and I'm going to wrap up question 3 and 4 together really quickly. So yes, you are going to make it, and the way that you're going to do it is by continuing to be pioneers and leaders in areas of disability like you do with parents with disabilities. I love the work that you do in that space, and I love being on panels with you and Rebecca, Wendy, so you keep it up, and we're going to make it to 80 for sure.
Amazing. Thank you, Ingrid. I feel the same way about our work too. Heather, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. So we'll be around. There's no shortage of work still yet to do. I know this. I'm on the board of Citizens with Disabilities Ontario, and in our preparation for response to the health standard a couple of years ago, we spoke about the numbers of young disabled people that are living in long-term care. And we looked at the statistics, and there are thousands of disabled people under the age of 50 living in long-term care. The need is there, and CILT will be around. CILT needs to be around to help that change.
We need to do some of that work together. John and Karen, we have very little time left. So a couple words.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say yes. As Sandra Carpenter always told me, that CILT was always about our programs were created to fill in gaps in service, and that's what our programs do. And I agree with Heather that there's so many needs in the community, as well as what Ingrid was saying about parents with disabilities. So as long as there are gaps in service, which there are great, there will always be a service need for people with disabilities. And how we get there is through partnerships that Sandra always really encouraged. So I'll pass it to Karen.
Thanks, John. And Karen, last word.
I would agree with what everyone has said. And I agree with John that there has to be, as CILT has done, the individual and collective mentoring of young disability leaders and continuing leaderships is so important for this work to be done. And CILT has certainly taken the lead individually to develop leaders, collectively to develop leaders, and we all have to kind of encourage that and mentor people to be able to take on those roles that we'll need, but we'll get there for sure. Thank you.
Darren. Thank you to all of you. What a brilliant conversation. And I look forward to another one. We're going to do this again. So Darren, I will pass it over to you, but thank you everybody for being here and for sharing your words of wisdom with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. And thanks to everyone who shared the panel with me. This was a great chat. That wraps up our program for tonight, everyone. So thank you for joining us for the 40th AGM of CILT. And thank you for your ongoing continued support of CILT. And we look forward to seeing you again next year. So have a great evening and thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.